Alright guys, so I got an unusual product here in this video, and this is from Beta FPV. This is a kit that will mount the parts from a GoPro Hero 6 Black. This is what I got here, and basically you strip it down and you put the parts in here, and there's a special board in here that has a plug right here, and that's the plug over here. It goes into there, and this goes to your power source. Believe this has a 5-volt regulator on board. Yeah, I think it's up to 4S, and basically it powers the GoPro that's inside here. Basically a stripped down GoPro, just the board, and no battery, nothing else, and it's going to be weighing a lot less. And the 3 wires are for your power, the battery power, and then this yellow wire goes to your flight controller. I think that's for starting and stopping video. I think you do that via your transmitter. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm going to probably figure that out and let you know later in the video. But the basic parts here are the actual PCB board here. You got your TPU case. You got a carbon cover here for protection, and some things for the lens module, and the screws to put it all together. So before we get started into this video, I just want to give a shout out to Richard Pop and the folks over at the Naked GoPro group on Facebook. They have been doing this project here for a long time, stripping down these GoPros and putting them onto micros and smaller things so you can fly them around, because these are really heavy with the battery and everything. And so this is nothing new, but what is new, and what those guys over at the Naked GoPro group, they've all been contributing to this board that Beta FPV has produced for them, basically. And what this does is it consolidates a lot of the hacks that were done to power the GoPro board. So basically you get the lens module out and the main board, you get rid of everything else, the case and the battery and everything else, and you still have to figure out a way to power the GoPro. That was the biggest thing, and also getting the buttons to work to start and stop your video. And they provide that here. So you have a record button here, you have your mode switch button here, and this also provides power. It's got a voltage regulator on board. And what's nice about this little package is once it's all put together, it goes like this. And you put this, basically, well, my intention is to actually, once I get this all stripped down, and in this little case here, you could probably move it back and forth from quad to quad, and you just need this plug here and then some sort of other plug over here, and you just unplug it from that quad and move it over. And I'm not exactly sure what this is going to weigh, but it's going to probably be something like 20 something grams. And you just power from the drone battery. So this is going to be really great for putting it on a lot of smaller whoops and micros. That's just going to be a really good project for those of you guys that want to get nice GoPro footage, especially for those of you guys that want to use ReelSteadyGo and get that nice smooth cinematic footage from something super light. I think if this becomes popular, then the 3-inch Cinewhoop is probably going to get killed off by smaller ones, because you're going to be able to put these on smaller Cinewhoops and going to be less noisy, you get the smaller spaces, etc. So, of course, again, the guys over at the Naked GoPro group, they've known about this stuff for a long time. This is nothing new to them, but I think this is going to become more and more popular. Now, the trick is you got to acquire a GoPro Hero 6, and this is something that I've been having trouble with myself. These are hard to get, and I got this off Amazon. It looks brand new. This is renewed, and it looks like it's a brand new GoPro. There's no damage or anything. It works. It basically comes in a generic box, and you do get the mounts and everything, and the battery that, of course, you're not going to use later, but you will need the battery for the first part of this video, because before you take this apart, you're going to want to do two things. So first, you're going to want to downgrade the firmware to version 1.6. That works better with ReelSteadyGo. If you're going to be using ReelSteadyGo, then you definitely want to go down to version 1.6. There is already a video that another channel called FPV Whoop put together, where he basically downloaded the firmware on the GoPro Hero 6 to 1.6. He's got the file linked in his video. I'll link his video and the link to the file as well in my description. You can check that out. And it's pretty simple. You just put the files on an SD card in a folder called Update, and then you just turn the GoPro on, and it will just flash the GoPro downgraded. Now, of course, when you connect to your app, it's going to want you to upgrade. You want to ignore that. you want to stay on version 1.6. So that's the first thing you got to do before you start taking this apart. The second thing you got to do is download the GoPro app to your smartphone, Android or iOS, because you're going to need that to control the GoPro because you're not going to be using the screen anymore. So get the GoPro app, pair it with the GoPro to your phone, and make sure that the camera can be controlled via the GoPro app. That's very important, via Wi-Fi. And then the other thing you want to do is go into the settings here and change the Wi-Fi frequency to 2.4 gigahertz. Let me go ahead and show you that. So it's going to be under connections, and under here under Wi-Fi band you want to change that to 2.4 gigahertz. If you leave it on 5.8 gigahertz, if you're on analog, that might mess up your VTX in your video. So you want to be on 2.4 gigahertz. Okay, so once you've done all that, you want to acquire some sort of a kit. You need a set of tools to be able to get all the screws off and get the GoPro apart. And these are some of the tools that I got from Amazon. This is like a $12 kit. I'll link that down in the description. That'll help you get this thing apart. But in terms of like getting it apart, there's a really good video again by this channel called FPV Whoop. I'll link his video down in the description. I'm going to use that basically to take it apart and get the parts out of here so I can put it inside this guy. And so I'll link that in the description, and I'll describe how to get this apart. So again, you're going to have to watch that video. It's not terribly complicated. You have to get this lens cap off. I think that's the hardest thing, and then remove this front plate here, and then you're going to take the obviously the whole back cover off of this screen. Not going to be using it anymore. There's a bunch of like ribbon cables you're going to disconnect. Of course, you're not going to use the battery either. So actually, I don't even know how much this thing weighs. I'm just curious. I just got one of these, and just curious what we're going to be going down to. This is with the battery. It's 117 grams. The GoPro Hero 6. So if we can shed approximately 90 to 95 grams off of this, get it down to like 20 something grams, it's going to be really good for putting on all kinds of smaller micros and stuff, and getting into smaller spaces and flying in quieter places that require less noise, for example, and perhaps things that aren't going to be as dangerous. And that is the whole goal of this whole idea and this concept. So go ahead, I'm going to take this apart, and I'll show you what's basically the remains of the guts of this, and then we'll put it in here and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so yeah, I stripped everything out of there. The hardest part of the whole getting this open is the glue that's on this part here on the inside. So use a heat gun down here at the bottom and around the edges here, and that will loosen it up. But that was the hardest part. The rest of it is pretty simple. Just follow the other video. And now I'm going to go ahead and put this board on here. So it's going to go on something like this. So this is the side with the micro SD card slot. I'm going to use these connectors here. So let's flip it over. So this is going to go over there, and that connector is going to go over there. And so I think that's where power is going to come from, or going to go to. So the power comes in through this connector here, through the voltage regulator, and then it sends 5 volts to the GoPro. And then you got your mode and power buttons here, and those will be accessible via the case here on the top. I'll show you that here in a second. But for those of you that are curious what this thing weighs, this is the GoPro motherboard, 7.7 grams, and then this is the lens module, and altogether it's 16.7, and add the BEC board, 18.3. So if you want to do super minimal, just do the BEC board along with the wire, 18.6 grams, and then once you start adding all the protection and stuff, you're going to add more weight. So that little TPU case bumps up to 24, almost 24 grams, and then there's a little carbon plate. It's probably another gram, and then there's some of these other pieces here. I'm going to probably use everything except for that ND filter thing. So yeah, it's 20. It's about 10 more grams for all the extra stuff, but then allows you to move everything back and move it from drone to drone, which is kind of the whole point of this. So for 10-gram penalty to be able to move it from drone to drone without permanent installation. That's not a bad idea, I think. So go ahead and put this together, and I'll show you what the final assembled product looks like. Alright, so this is a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and it took me a little bit of sort of guessing as to figuring out how to allocate the screws. It will be apparent as you progress through the video, but just follow the instructions in the video here. So first off, you want to start off with the board, and the board from Beta FPV. It's going to go onto this connector here and this connector here, and you want to make sure that's secure, because if that pops off, then this whole thing isn't going to work. So it's easiest to line up this one here first, and it should just snap in, and this one should also snap in. Okay. So that's in there now. Should look like this, and then you're going to want to put the lens back on, but before you do that, you're going to want to put this ring on here. You're going to need this so that it'll hold the lens in place, and it only goes in a certain way. If you rotate it, it doesn't work, and then you're going to need some of these screws here, I'll show you later, to hold this ring in place that'll actually hold the lens in place. So first thing you got to do is reattach the lens module. So this is on the back side here, and this is going to be fiddly, so take your time. Okay, so it does seem to be in there. Didn't really make a clicking sound, but looks like it's in there. It's not coming out. So if it does, then I'm going to take this whole thing apart and check it again. Okay, so everything's going to go into the case like this. Basically, this is the back side. See where the plug is? It's going to line up that hole there, and the SD card slot goes here. And you got to get the lens module through this back part here. So the easiest way is to get that ribbon cable through this side. This is, again, very fiddly, so just take your time, be careful. You don't want to break any of these ribbon cables. They'll just basically destroy it, and you'll have to get new parts. Okay, so yeah, finally got that through. It's very, very fiddly, and a couple times that the lens module popped off of there, so it is very tricky getting that in. But then now the rest of this should be fairly straightforward. And this is super fiddly. I'll line up this ring here in the back, and gotta get that USB port over here, get all that stuff lined up. Again, take your time. Okay, so it looks like I got it all the way flush to the back, and these buttons here, the mode and the power button, should be clickable through the TPU. If they're not, then they're not lined up right. Okay, so we're going to do the first set of screws here. It's going to be this one here. I think these are all self-tapping. They're going to go into the TPU. Right. The first one's going to go right here. And this is where the second one goes. The third one goes right there. Okay, so you got your 3 screws there, one there, and one there. And then this, I think this one here, hard to see, that one goes right there. Okay, so then now we got to secure this ring here to the back part of this. I think this one. So Then we've got another one of these here. It's going to go to the bottom of the lens here. So that should go there, and then the two really long screws are going to go into the two top sections. Okay, but before you put those two long screws in, we got to put the carbon plate in, and it's going to slide in underneath the ring there. Okay, so that plate should just line up pretty easily, fall into place, and should line up with that. Also, that metal piece there, they'll stand off. That's going to hold that screw in place. And then we just have to line up these two holes. Alright, so it should look like this now. The two long screws. You can see how this works. This little ring is behind here, and that goes through that standoff there, and then there's another long standoff here. It goes all the way back into the back of the TPU there. So you have these two long screws there, and then this one here. Basically this is just holding the ring to the lens module. And now we just got to put the last four screws in, and they're black. So, the last four black screws are going to be for holding the carbon plate in. And this just goes through the board and everything, and then everything should line up. If you're not lined up right, you could be like screwing this into the board, so be careful about that. It should just go right in. And if you feel any resistance, then something's not lined up right, so just be careful.
Eventually.
Okay, so I ran into a mistake earlier in the video. I actually put this screw in here by mistake. It's blocking that hole for the longer screw, so I ended up just taking that out. I'm not exactly sure why there's an extra one. I think there may be another screw hole there that I missed. Hopefully it's not critical, and I'm just going to continue, basically just lifted up the plate a little bit and then pull that screw out. So if you made that same mistake, sorry. I'll try and note that earlier in the video that you should not put that screw in. Got two more to go. I think everything should be cool. Okay, so all those four black screws are now in, and I need to put this cover here on the back, and I think it goes like this. Alright, and then this piece here goes on the lens. If you're going to be using the ND filters for the GoPro 6, they're the size and just cover over the top. But I'm going to be using something else, and I don't have these ND filters, so I'm not going to be putting that on. But that's pretty much it. You got to plug this into the back here, and you can power this through your LiPo somewhere in your flight controller. The voltage range is 8 to 20 volts on the BEC, and it'll output 5 volts to the GoPro. The yellow wire is for setting up the starting and stopping of the video via your transmitter. You have to use like some CLI commands and pin.io commands, I believe is what it is. I will link a video down in the description on how to set that up, because it's going to vary on what flight control you have, that kind of thing. So there's a video that explains all that. It's way too long for this one, but if you want to use that, it's optional. Of course, it is optional. You just need power to turn it on, and then I think you just press one of these buttons here, I forget which one it was, to power up the GoPro, and then start I think the mode button is to start and stop recording, and I think that is it. So let me go power this up, and hopefully I didn't break anything and it's still working. Okay, so let's get the weight of this here now fully assembled. And now we're coming in at 27.3 grams. It's about 10 grams more without any of the extra parts here to basically make it modular, so you can move it from craft to craft. You can obviously just mount it permanently into like one craft, maybe have half the weight, 5 grams. You still need some things to mount it with, some TP parts, etc. So this is actually not a bad solution. 27 grams for a GoPro Hero 6. Okay, so I got the connector soldered onto this flight controller. Just basically passes through battery voltage. And I'm going to plug in a 3S LiPo. I was going to originally test this with a 2S LiPo, but then I realized that the voltage range is 8 to 20 volts. So if it's any small amount below, if it was 8 below 8 volts, I don't think it's going to work. So got that plugged in to the back there. So I'm assuming that I'm going to have some sort of other solution here with another plug in the middle so that you can unplug it and then move it to another drone if you want. And let's go power it up. So got power here. And I just saw a little flashing red light there when I powered it up, but it went away. I wonder if it's actually turned on. Let's press this is the record button here, and that's the power button. So I press the record button, nothing happens, so it must just have power. Let's go ahead and press the power button. And I don't see any lights. Let's indicate that it's working. Let's press the record button. Okay, so there it goes. So the record light works. You can see that it's recording, but you can't, there's no light indicating that it's got power and if you're in the right mode or not. So let's go ahead and, I guess you have to check that with your phone because there's no screens. So press the button again. That should turn it off. So I'm not sure if that actually turns off the GoPro when you stop the recording. Again, they didn't give me any information, so let's see here. I'm going to assume that it's turned off, so let's try and long press the power button again. And then if it was already off, then now it should be on. Let's press the record button. And nothing's happening, so long pressing it did turn it off. So if we long press it again, there's no lights, no sounds, no speakers, so I'm assuming it's on. Yeah, I don't see any lights or anything, so let's long press the power button again. It must be off. There it goes, 3 lights. Press the record button, and now it's recording again. So hopefully I have a recording. I have a micro SD card in there. Nice little cover there for the micro SD card. Press the record button again. I should stop. So I'm going to long press this. Okay, so there's that I think that's 4 or 5 flashing lights. I think that means it's turning off. So the light LED situation, I'm going to have to get some more information about that. It's a little, let's just say, confusing. So I'm going to assume that they're going to probably print a manual for this, or a PDF manual, and put it online with the product link. It's not even out yet, so hopefully they'll document that as to what the correct situation is in the lights. And that is it. So you'll see some footage of this later. This video is probably way too long as it is, but I'm assuming you guys know what the Hero 6 footage looks like, and I'll be obviously using ReelSteadyGo. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.